I hope everybody's having a good week and had a good St. Patrick's Day yesterday. Okay, perfect. All right, we're going to start because I've got a lot to say about this topic. So this week's topic is in the Painted Playground webinar series is about playground painting methods and best materials and best practices. A little bit about me and those of you that joined us last week. I will spare you too much detail, but I am the founder and CEO of Fit and Fun Playscapes. I'm also an architect and a planner, and I'm on the board of trustees for our local Chamber of Commerce here in Dutchess County, New York. I'm on a advisory council for Scouting America, and also on the board of trustees for Abilities First and advisory council for the Women's Enterprise Development Corporation. So we're pretty involved here as a company. But enough about me. I would love for you to think about who you are. I rattled off some information about the people that have joined us today, but I want you to think about why are you here? Why does Painted Playgrounds interest you? What do you want to achieve? What is your vision? Have you ever painted before? What is your role? What is your team's role? What is your background? These are great questions for this part of the series because it really, if you can think about that and you'll understand why when we get into it, it's really important to know what you want to achieve and how you get there as we're talking about paint and stencils and other options. Uh, Next one, perfect. So these are the topics we're going to be covering. We're going to be starting with identifying pavement surface types. I know that sounds very exciting, but it is important. We're going to review some adverse pavement conditions, very exciting as well. And then we're going to really get into the outlining the application and paint methods that are widely available and also provide best practices on tips on how to do your selection of your materials and your application methods as well as paint. And then we're going to highlight some areas of and conditions of concern that you may or may not know about, but that we've come about our desk and our phone. And so we want to push that forward to our community. So before we jump right in, I want you to also to think about through some of the logistics and the means and the resources that you had. What kind of surface are you painting? What is the condition of the pavement surface? Will the games be painted on pavement where there's vehicles or buses also going over? That's come up a few times. How large of a space will you paint? How many games will be painted? How will you paint the games? And how much time do you have to paint? And then again, like I mentioned before, what is the experience and the age group of your team? Are there kids out there or not? So all of these questions should help you form where, when, and how you will be painting. Types of pavement. I told you this is going to be very exciting. But it's important to cover because not all surfaces respond the same to paint and stencils, and not all surfaces are treated the same way. So visually identifying playground surfaces is essential prior to painting. And it's essential to factors such as paint adhesion, its durability, its preparation. All of these things can vary significantly. So on the top, this large image is a beautiful picture of asphalt pavement. I chose to go in close because that's how you can really best distinguish the difference. And there's a catch here, so bear with me. So for asphalt pavements, it's usually dark black or dark gray. It kind of fades and oxidizes and gets grayer as it ages. And the surface contains small visible stones. So you'll see almost in the bottom left, it's not exactly like the bottom left, but you'll have some called an aggregate. You'll have some of that in there. And it's also got a slightly rough texture. The surface, we call it's like when I speak to my community about painting, it's got the texture of like a English muffin. So it's got flat areas and then pockets and voids. And sometimes, especially if it's new, it'll exhibit a slight sheen, especially when it's seal coated, which is like a not a paint, it's much thicker than that, that can go on the top of asphalt to extend its life. The additional clues is that cracks typically appear in like irregular patterns. It's used in parking lots, school blacktops, multi-use courts. Those are some of the places you will see that. And then this middle one here, the light gray one, that is a picture of concrete. Again, it looks nice and new and beautiful in this photo, but it typically has a light gray or off-white appearance. It's definitely got a smoother surface to it. Sometimes you'll see lines or striations through it. And it often features these expansion joints every 4 to 6 feet that help just hold the concrete together structurally, but it'll form like a rectangular or square pattern. And it typically doesn't have any loose stones on it like asphalt would. So it's much smoother in that sense. It's generally lighter, and the cracks often follow straight lines or edges. It's not so, the cracks aren't as jagged. And the common uses, you'll see this along sidewalks, in courtyards, or maybe even older playground pads, as long as there's no playground and swings on top of it. And then this one on the left has come up more frequently. It's permeable paving. And so it's an environmentally more friendly surface or material, and it appears porous. And this had came up once we were working with a customer and they kept running out of paint. And it turns out that it was porous pavement. And so it's meant to absorb the liquid and it just kept going in and in. So you have to be very careful. So that's kind of like my heads up on the porous pavement. Typically, it's like if you can see the difference between the stones on the bottom left and the large one on the top there, the aggregate, the stones are much coarser than standard asphalt, and its purpose really is to drain the water from the surface. It's used for stormwater and just sustainable school campuses. And then the last one on the right is poured in place rubber surfacing. You'll see that and should see something like that under many of the climbing equipment. That equipment has standards for safety where the higher the equipment is, the thicker and more robust that poured in place rubber is. Consists of these rubber granules, these little, and sometimes they come loose. And it feels soft and spongy to some extent, and it usually comes in lots of pretty colors. I'm not going to go into discussing poured in place rubber too much during this presentation. We do work with a partner to provide paint for that surface, but I'm not going to dive too deep. I'm going to stick to the asphalt and the concrete surfaces. Real quick, when you're looking at your pavement and you're trying to decide if this is a good place to paint, you want to look at the overall surface condition of the pavement. Are there cracks? Are there potholes? Are there just surface depressions? Is the pavement wet all the time? Is drainage and water flow just not good? It just sits there for days. What is the age of the pavement? And is there a seal coat on top? And even, is there gum all over it and grease because it's also the parking lot for weekend classes or something like that? So you want to think about the condition of the pavement. Certain conditions that you definitely want to make note of. And this is one of those things, those concerns that have come up to us and our customers over 15 years. And it is kind of, I don't want to say a sneaky condition, but it's there. It's not always well known or documented. So if the condition of the pavement is good, you want to just do some due diligence. For newly installed pavement, you want to inquire with facilities whether the asphalt has been, how new the asphalt has been installed, or if it's newly reseal coated. A distinct petroleum odor, often you can kind of smell that quite often. It could last for a few months so that the sealant can off gas and even the actual pavement can off gas. If the asphalt appears very dark and looks fresh, confirm its age because generally it needs to sit for 30 to 90 days before some of these paint products can be applied. And that time frame can vary based on your region, the type, the materials, and that sort of thing. And then for newly poured concrete, please verify it. Verify if it is unsealed or not. Concrete that is typically older, 10 plus years, is typically not sealed. If the concrete is newer in the last 0 to 5 years, you definitely want to check with facilities to see if a seal coat was put on it. It's a clear coat, visually difficult to identify. It may look like there's a little glistening on the surface, and it's usually done on sidewalks. And the purpose of that seal coat is to let the water run off more easily, and it becomes a barrier to anything that you try to adhere to it, including paint. So a few times that has come up and the paint will simply peel right off. So we put a big caution sign up on that. Sometimes the surface, if it's sealed, has to be scarified or like roughed up and break through that barrier for the paint to adhere. But it's really hard to hear about customers that have painted out there and it peels up within a week or two. So we definitely don't want that situation to occur for you. If you are unable to visually notice that or even have facilities, if there's no one around to really help you figure that out, it is advisable to conduct what they call an adhesion and compatibility test. Sounds really fancy. It's not. You can simply call your local paint store. You'll hear about this later in the presentation. And if you're an existing customer of ours, you know we have a great relationship with Sherwin-Williams. They are happy to come out and a lot of times do that for free. They want to make sure you have the right paint out there. And I would expect other companies to do the same. And they'll do that quick test. It takes no time and they usually do it for free. And you can be safe and sound that the pavement is ready to receive paint. Paint, so the ideal pavement properties is that the asphalt or concrete is structurally sound, that there's very few cracks. Minor ones are okay. You don't want, cracks where there is trip hazards. I was on a call this morning with a school in New York City, and they've got a lot of concrete on their playgrounds, and so there are some areas that they're a little concerned about. You want to make sure there's no potholes and you want to keep it dry and you want to look out for a seal coat or sealant on the top and you want to make sure your pavement is well drained. Okay, your playground painting. So you're thinking, I love this idea. I want to paint. Let's do it. But who's going to paint the playground? You need to think about how much time you have to spend on this project, what the age and skill is of your volunteers. I mentioned before, sometimes you'll have children out there helping. Sometimes it's teens, a scouting group, a 4-H group, honor society. You could have older retired people. You could have PTA dads and moms. So it could be a real mixed bag out there. You could have skilled people like facilities or professional contractors as well. The question of who will be painting is critical to which paint will be used and how the games will be painted. It defines the next few slides outlining our methods for painting. Communities have quite a few options for installing playground markings. You can have someone do it freehand by volunteers. You can hire a professional muralist to really take on the whole project. Or you can use volunteers to freehand the artwork. You can utilize, especially in some schools and parks and recs, you can utilize the parking lot contractors to also do the games. Or stencils or templates can be used by volunteers or professionals to expedite and economize this process. Before proceeding with the painting of the playground games, right? We talked about you want to make sure about the pavement, but also you want to look at the different types of paint options for you. So you'll have several options for just traffic or pavement paint. Some last longer than others. And then you have spray paint, and then you have chalk spray, and then porch and floor paint. And I will go into that a little bit more. please note I've omitted the more industrial grade paints. Many are epoxy based, and I just don't feel like it's a good option for volunteers, especially if you don't have any experience painting. And the chemicals are a bit volatile, I guess, to the nose and the senses. Okay, so for traffic or pavement paint, as I believe I mentioned, it is a waterborne acrylic alkylate pavement marking paint designed specific for concrete surfaces. That's the kind of paint we sell through Sherwin-Williams. Like I said, it is the most popular one. So that paint is very durable, it's weather resistant, it's long lasting and can last 3 to 5 years. It is suitable for both asphalt and concrete surfaces, and it's typically applied with rollers or brushes. It's got a good amount of pavement of color options for you, and you typically don't need to wear a mask unless you're putting it through a professional high pressure sprayer system. And I like it because it's just you have a lot more control. You don't need to wear a mask and you can just go in and paint with brushes and rollers. The disadvantages, and I feel like this is with everything these days, is that it's typically more expensive than the a lot of the other options. That kind of paint is only available in gallons and sometimes 5 gallon drums only. And then you have to purchase the trays and the brushes and all the other supplies. For our color palette, the Fit and Fun color palette, we also blend in some concrete stains to get some specific colors that those pigments are not available in traffic marking. But Sherwin-Williams has assured us that it's equally durable. It's a little bit more expensive, but that's okay. For our customers, we want to make sure that the color palette is really appealing to the community and children. So the concrete stain we use, it's actually an acrylic latex formula. It's fairly durable. It's not meant for high traffic areas. So I mentioned once before that there was a place where there's buses and cars in the parking lot on the weekends. So that wouldn't be a great fit for there. But it is quite weather resistant and it can last 3 to 4 years as well. We've got the sign off from Sherwin-Williams that even though it doesn't say it could be used on asphalt on the can, it is still suitable. And you can still use rollers and brushes, and you don't need to wear a mask. So lots of good benefits there. Again, it's typically more expensive, and it's gallons only, and you've got these extra supplies. For spray paint, that option is really great for, you've got 4 hours or, 6 hours. The volunteers are coming. We're going to do it fast. We're going to get it done. That's a great application for that. It's also much more economical because if you need a little pink for one of the designs, then you just need 1 can of spray paint, not a whole gallon. So just naturally, the economy of using spray paint is more budget friendly. It's a little trickier for details and outlines. It's a little tricky for large games like Foursquare. You want to stick to smaller areas as well. And the durability we are seeing is about between 2 and 4 years. We've been using the Sherwin-Williams paint for about, oh gosh, 8, 9 years. The spray paint has only been about 3 years, so we're getting good results back. But right now, we'll say between 2 and 4 years. The disadvantages, like I said, it doesn't last as long. You have to wear a mask. There could be overspray and some fuzzy edges. And those large areas might be challenging. I put up here chalk spray. We don't sell that on our website. It's a special order. I wanted to include that because it's great for temporary markings, temporary events. We use this back in a local village in COVID when everybody was just walking around on the sidewalks and they needed something else to do with families. And so we created a sensory path along and an activity trail along the sidewalks using chalk spray. They weren't quite ready to commit. They didn't know how long the pandemic would last. And so we had to illustrate, and we did exactly that, where it could just be power washed, but, and wash away. It did last several months. So it was really nice. And then it's just completely gone within the year. That's great for school events, trial layouts, and things like that. And, it's good if a community wants to test a design before making a full commitment. Lastly, there is a choice about porch and floor paints. Those are different than the Sherwin-Williams paint, the pavement paint that we use. There are different formulas out there. Mostly they are acrylic latex. They do work well, but they're not specifically made for concrete and asphalt and definitely not as durable. It should be a little bit more economical. Just, no matter what paint you choose, you just need to understand how the paint will respond, how your paint team would like to apply the paint, what is the time frame, and then that compatibility to the pavement. When you want to paint, you want to make sure that, and we'll dive into this a little bit more for part 4, how to organize a successful playground paint day. But you want to note before you paint about the weather conditions. We've got people on this meeting from across the country, and there's a lot of different conditions today and will always be across the country. You want to note that the weather really does and can impact significantly the durability of the paint. And ideally, painting should occur in dry weather with low humidity, stable warm temperatures. Maybe slight breeze is okay, but not too windy. And then when painting surfaces, especially walls, typically brick and concrete, you want to make sure the paint is compatible with that wall surface as well. Glazed brick is also used on a lot of buildings if you want to paint on walls. That typically does not allow paint to adhere to that. So if you want to paint on a building, definitely it's advisable to consult with your facilities management or facilities manager to check on that. And then we want to make sure that to avoid the types of paint, like don't use the paint that we recommend for pavement on poured in place. That's a specific type of paint, as I mentioned before. And then finally, it is definitely essential to be aware for our California folks about Proposition 65. That's a law that was enacted in 1986. And I won't go into it too deeply, other than you have to have approval for certain paints in that state or disclose what is in your paint that could discharge hazardous chemicals into the drinking water as well as into the atmosphere and into the air that you're breathing. For thermoplastic painting, you definitely do not want to, that is not paint. Thermoplastic is like a thick, it's probably, I don't know if you could see my finger, it's probably about that thick. So there's a thickness to it. It's laid down in sheets and it's heat bonded to the pavement. It is not something a volunteer should or can do. It's very popular in Europe and it is very expensive. Next up, stencil options, right? We talked about professional muralists. We talked about a parking lot installer and doing something truly unique and creative. With the muralist parking lot contractors, they'll get some standard stuff. Hopscotch, and this is no ding to parking lot contractors. They get the job done, but they're not going to be too creative for it. Most of them are not going to be too creative for you. So that's one of the reasons Fit and Fun was born, to create high quality stencil materials that produce clean lines, articulated line work, and ensuring consistent results. There are a lot of different options out there. I want you to think about pricing, handling, reusability, sustainability, storage, where you're going to put these when you're done with them, and also a safety component. When selecting stencils, communities should prioritize materials that are durable, that limit sharp edges, that are thick enough to last but thin enough to handle, and maintain their structure. You want stencils that hold up in breezy conditions. Nothing's going to hold up in high winds, so not even the paint's going to go everywhere. But if there's a breeze, the stencil should be able to stay intact. You want to make sure the stencils are easy to align and handle. and that they are sufficiently large enough to scale for playground scale designs. There are some products out there where you have to chalk the dots and connect the dots, and it comes in, numerous parts. One four square could be 17 parts. That just seems a little clumsy and unnecessary for a four square. You also want to make sure the stencil options that you choose are reusable for future touch-ups. There are a few plastic and types of materials, which I'll show on the next slide. I don't want to get too in the weeds scientifically, but there are differences that I want to outline for you. Okay, these are some stencil options. So up on the left in the green, and some of these visually look, exactly the same. That's called LDPE or LLDPE. That stands for low density polyethylene. It is a very common material for stencils. It cuts well on our machines, but it's not chemically resistant. Many forms are not chemically resistant, so that can create some issues with use with certain paint. It offers a lot of flexibility. In other words, a lot of bend to it so you can roll it. And it's a little too soft for some of our customers from what we're hearing. And it often takes time to uncurl, make it a little difficult to handle. It feels almost soft to the touch. The red one graphic in the middle, that's cardboard. Everybody knows what cardboard is. It's a very economical choice, but as soon as paint will touch that surface, it's going to start to degrade real fast as soon as that paint contacts that paper surface. So you're not going to get multiple uses. And I find that the cardboard and the coroplast, which is like its plastic sister or brother underneath it, those are very thick and it's very difficult to get fine lines and it's a bit tricky to handle, but some people do like that. On the top right in the yellow is a mylar. It's composed of polyethylene, and then it's a long scientific word that I'm not going to say. Basically, a polyester. And this is a great material. It's thin, it rolls up nicely, but it's a little thin to use on larger scales. And it's got some very sharp edges because it's rigid and thin. So from our perspective, it poses a little bit of a safety hazard because that profile is so thin when handling. It's reasonably priced. Paper in the bottom left, that's a white paper. You can see in that photo, the paper tends to curl, and any stencil will curl a little bit, but we've definitely noticed a lot more curling in a paper product. But it's super economical. You'll only get one application out of it, so it's not really sustainable. And you'll have to tape it down. And that is tricky in itself because using tape of really any kind on concrete or asphalt, it just doesn't really stick to those surfaces. And so it'll blow away even in the slightest of breezes. I talked a little bit about the coroplast. It's probably about that thick and it's got some channels in it. Again, it's very economical, but we have found it to be a little cumbersome to use, also to store. The material that we use on the bottom right, and I actually have a sample here, it's a PETG. So you can see it's fairly thin, but thick enough to use and hold on to. It's actually a thermoplastic copolyester. And so it gives it that rigidity, but also that ability to curl. And I love it that it's fully recyclable in some communities. So we've been using that for 15 years, and we just feel very comfortable with that one. And we kind of came to it where we feel like it's the best choice when considering our most common users, which are people with little to no experience, storage issues within schools and agencies, and the need for durability and reusability, as well as economics. I that's think that's it for the information. I just wanted to share with you about Fit and Fun Playscapes real quickly, and then we'll go into questions that you may have. We carefully curate paint and stencil kits, and what I mean by that is that we truly do strive to balance the durability, the economy, the applicability and really make, understand how easy it is to paint as easy as that can be. There are companies and choices that offer more creative designs, more durable materials, or just so simplistic. But we do really try to focus on designs that are engaging, colorful, and those that can be painted just about by anyone. And that last year. So we've got a specific group of people that we really try to speak to. These are some of our products and services that we provide with our stencils. We can talk to you one-on-one about your pavement and your team. We provide written and video instructional guides for our stencils. We have three options for paint: spray paint, Sherwin-Williams paint, as well as poured in place paint. I guess maybe four: chalk spray. Like I said, it's not on the website. And then we can also customize any stencil in languages and paint kits with colors. And we've got about 150 blogs on our website to help communities fully understand the process. I hope I didn't overwhelm anybody on this session about paint and stencils. Tried to balance out to give you good information to take back. I am going to create a one or two pager like I did the last session and kind of outline these for you in a quick reference. Yep, thanks, Barbara. Yep. To do that, it's a little, it's believe me, it's not as hard as it is. There's a couple of basic questions, but I wanted to give you all the information because collecting the various experiences over 15 years across the states, we've got a lot to provide, and we want to be there for you. You can check out our digital flip book and catalog, and like I said, you can connect with me directly for a one-on-one as well. We're accessible by phone, chat, email, or virtual meet. Thank you again. Our next session is on it's going to be part 3. That's what's up next. It's mapping your blacktop, and we're going to talk about how to plan the games out there. We're not going to do any measuring. We're not going to do any of that. We're going to do really high level talk about how to organize the games using the CDC's strategies and Shape America guidelines to ensure engaging and inclusive play experience for everyone. And that is next Wednesday, March 25th at 3 p.m. Same time, same channel. So I will open it up with my contact information. Oh, you're also getting a coupon code. Hopefully, those that were here last week, you should have received an email with this. It wasn't one page, it was 2 to 3 pages, but one was just all references. We'll send that coupon code out to you as well. So I'm sorry we ran over a little bit. Hopefully I didn't speak too fast, but if you have any questions, I would love to hear from you. You could put them in the chat or you can unmute and we can talk about your questions.
So I could share just a little bit. I work with Stacy, and we do a lot of work with the schools in our county, offering grant opportunities for them to implement health and wellness projects, whether it's mental health, nutrition, or physical activity, just to name a few. So we're just exploring this concept. Perhaps this could be a project that is community-based or perhaps school-based. So we have different programs within our organization, whether we work with the schools or communities. So in answer to what kind of pavement, I think it really depends on perhaps where we land with the project. There'll be a fair amount of assessing that needs to be done.
I would say there is some information out there, and maybe would it be helpful if I kind of put a checklist together asking about pavement conditions that you can just kind of quickly send out to your community to quickly assess without um, any expertise and just get a sense of what kind of pavement is out there and what shape it is in. Would that be helpful?
That could potentially be helpful. I think that Stacy and I might talk with one of our colleagues who does a lot of work with people within the community. So this way we could direct those questions to the right people. So sure, absolutely, that'd be very helpful and maybe trying to get something started. Thank you.
Oh, that's great. And Dodie, you were on last week. Correct me if I'm wrong. Are you with library? Is that correct?
I'm with Anderson
Yeah.
County Library in the upstate of South Carolina.
So you were talking about you had a lot of brick out in your courtyard areas. Is that
We do. It is bricked in, but there's a lot of concrete. The whole, except for the gardens, everything is concrete.
okay? Okay, so you definitely want to make sure there's no sheen and you want to check on the age of that concrete. And
Oh yeah.
so that's important. Uh, do you think it would be helpful if I put together a short table of the different types of paint that you can just kind of discuss among each other internally to make that decision? I'm going to pull this all together. I didn't pre-create the flyers. I really enjoyed listening to the questions last week, and kind of pull it all together. So that's my Thursday morning chore task to really hear about what is wanted on this, questions and the type of people we have on these calls, and put together something customized for you to refer to. So I could put together a paint list. I can't put pricing on it. I feel like I'm not comfortable with that because it changes so much regionally. And I think just lately the prices have been changing a lot. Well, perfect. I won't keep you any longer. Like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And we're available if you need any assistance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
You too.